I think there's 5 things: be a growth firm, get coaching, get technology, really find the right custodian, but then find some type of growth partner or a capital partner that's going to help you grow. Because I think it's going to be a world where the next 7 years you got to invest in your firm, but I think you'll get great dividends in return if you do.
Good to see you, Tom.
Good to see you, Roger.
You've been in this business for what, 30 years or so?
Yeah, probably a little longer, but yes, I've been around for a while.
Most advisors don't consider having a coach. Tell us why and talk about coaching.
I think a lot of it has to do, Roger, with how they started in the business. You're out there by yourself. You're developing your own book by yourself. You give it everything you have to grow. You're fighting, crawling, doing whatever it takes to establish yourself in a highly competitive business. And so I think it's a very egocentric environment that you grow up in. And as you cross maybe 3 or 4 million of annualized revenue, you start to put a team together, but the team is all built around trying to support you and trying to help you get to be more productive. And so their success is dependent on your success. So again, it just kind of feeds that egocentric environment. And then all of a sudden you get to about 10 million of revenue, and the team now requires some additional skill and talent at leadership. And the lead advisor, who everything's been about them, now has to slide over and probably take more of a leadership role and do more things to help the organization grow. And it's tough because they've spent their whole life about them. And it's their whole life has really been about themselves or the people that they've hired to help them grow the business. And it's really hard to kind of step from that into the side of saying, I need to go ask somebody else how to do what I know how to do. And that becomes very difficult, I think, for a lot of these bigger advisors. And I think most of the complexity comes when they are in those transition moments between 4 million and 10 million, 10 million and 20 million, and then 20 million and greater. I just feel like each time there's a bigger chance that lead advisor, who is now the owner or now the lead person in the leadership side, they have to change again and again and again, and they have to grow. And it's hard because they still see the business the way they saw it when they started, and it's been about them. So I think that's the hard part for advisors going out and looking for a coach.
You make it look easy, Tom. And it's a really, really, really hard business being a consultant. You have an intuitive sense of people and an intuitive certainly sense and a deep, deep understanding of personalities and egos and team structures and issues, concerns regarding teams. That's a unique skill. There's not that many coaches in our business like you.
No, there isn't a lot of them, and most of them I think are more of a generalist. They see themselves as doing a lot of different things, whatever that owner wants or whatever that owner needs. And myself, I've never been very thrilled or excited about the idea of becoming an efficiency coach or try to help somebody, to how to hire or, do some parts of the business. I've been a growth coach ever since I started in that side of the business. And I actually say no to a lot of people because they are asking for something that I really don't see as a complex skill that I'd like to, take on. And so to me, the variety of coaches that I see, most of them I think are in that generalist world. I think I'm one of the few people who really just stays strictly on the growth side. To me, it's the one I like the most because it's, I think, the most difficult.
What is growth for you? Is it growth within how the team is more efficient? Is it just assets and revenues? And what is growth?
I think there's a rhythm to success, Roger. And I think that rhythm to success has to be that you're one of those teams that can stay in balance, that your top line revenue grows, but there's a correlation to how your bottom line profitability grows, and that you're not just all focused on getting your top line where it is, or you're not all focused on, I just need to, keep a higher equity value and have my profitability grow, and I don't distribute or share much of the wealth because that's how I see success. To me, the growth is really a balance of those two issues, and I think there's a really rhythm to that. And I talk a lot about when I get a team, I kind of measure the growth percentage of the top line and the percentage of profitability, and I add those two together, and I say, okay, Roger's a plus 28 team or a plus 30 team, but my goal for all the teams that I coach is to be a plus 40 team, and means that if I'm growing the top line revenue at 24, I'm growing my profitability at least at 16 or 18. And so add those two together, I'm a plus 40 team. But I like the idea that growth there's a balance to the right kind of growth, but I also see growth in what our clients are receiving in value. I like to ask the question is that how are your clients better off than they were 3 years ago? And sometimes it stymies advisors because I'm just doing what I was always doing. And the idea and the value is the client's value has to grow, the firm's value has to grow, the ops team has to be getting better, the advisors need to be getting better. And when you really have a growth culture, it is about all of those factors getting better. It's not just this one little tiny spot that gets better. So to me, growth is very comprehensive about the entire organization.
And that's also how you're incentivized as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I really kind of a different person in that I charge people for our time and value in the initial part, and then I don't change my cost for 3 years. And at the end of 3 years, we take a look at where we are and how much growth we've had. And if we've achieved some of those things, then we increase our fee. And then we do that again for 3 more years. And so, yeah, I try to be a part of their growth. And if they succeed, then I feel like our organization should succeed a little more as well.
How do you measure your success in your relationships?
For us, it's really about trying to get the most out of every team that we can, and try to get them into a spot where their personal life is in balance, their professional life is in balance, that they are, enjoying and happy and excited about what they're doing. And it's not a drudgery. It's not
Yeah.
a painful thing, but it's really exciting and fun for them to go to work every day. And I think that happens when you can control your results, when you are in control of the end results annually, and you're not waiting for the market to grow so you can grow, but you're actually controlling that growth. And I think when you have a great plan and you're out there executing that plan, there's more satisfaction. There's less tension. I think that's where enjoyment and satisfaction actually starts to create motivation. And when the teams are really rocking and rolling and growing, they're having fun. It's a lot of fun to coach those teams. And good things seem to happen when you are in that mode of where the motivation is the right place and you're doing the right things.
I've seen you in action, and it's not just coaching the senior executives. You coach all the way down to the assistants, and you have one-on-ones with them, and you have one-on-ones with the entire team. And it's really interesting how you dissect the business.
One of the things that I think is so critically important is the culture of an organization. It's the teamwork that you create. I think when things get hard, you really know the depth of the culture and the strength of the culture of an organization. So when somebody's beliefs is actually seen in their actual behavior, I think that team can handle more. And you don't stop and start as much because the team is kind of creating solutions as the teamwork becomes a part of the success of the team. And so I can't just get hired by Roger Gershman and trust that Roger's giving me the right opinion about everybody on the team. So what I have to do literally is listen to Roger about what he believes is the reasons why he is not succeeding or the reasons why he has succeeded. But I then need to kind of get in there and get under the covers a little bit and talk to people and try to find out whether those are the realities or not. And so you're trying to bring that reality into play so that you're dealing with the facts that are really influencing success or inhibiting success. So, yeah, that part of our structure as a team is to get in to know everybody and know how they feel and what they feel about the organization and when they're heard and not heard, when they feel like they're really a part of the answer and when they don't feel like they're heard by anybody and not a part of the answer. And so, the culture is really a critical part. It's not as critical as the plan. It's not as critical as some other pieces. But when you build the plan, if the plan doesn't align to the culture, you're not going to go anywhere. And so you got to understand the underbelly of an organization as well as you understand the key leaders of the organization. But it's just a part of the approach.
It's terrific. Talk about Generation 2, Generation 3 planning. I mean, it is a major challenge to take a successful CEO or group of advisors who have been at this for 20, 30, sometimes 40 years and keeping that legacy going and, bringing on new team leaders and holding onto that equity. Talk about what's happening in our industry right now and how do you address that?
Well, there's a couple really strong forces at play here. One is that the valuations have gotten to be larger and larger and larger, and so it's like out there trying to buy a new home today, where an average home is costing you way more than my salary can afford. And starting about 10 years ago, we started to see the separation as value started to grow. More and more difficult for a G2 or a G3 to say, how do I get to buy into that? How do I get to become a part of that? And part of it I start with is that most advisors that are in that lead advisor role don't start early enough with building the opportunities for the G2s and the G3s to get in. There's so many different, unique, and I think pretty exciting ways to allow a 28-year-old or a 35-year-old to start getting into the business. But it really requires that the lead advisor has to give up some things earlier and has to start to plan sooner. And when he finds the right people, he has to commit. And he really has to show conviction and develop that person. And he's got to give him authority. He's got to give him a chance to swing and miss. And he's got to give him a chance to, hit it and get better. And I think most of the time that I get involved, I usually think like, the lead advisor will tell me, he just doesn't get it. He doesn't know. He'll never be a leader, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, wow, you probably don't remember what you were like at 28. And I really feel like it's, letting people into the box, letting them find out whether they really want to be an owner. Sometimes it's the young guy that says, that's all I ever want to do is to own this firm. And he doesn't have the right skill set and he doesn't have the right talent. And then the lead advisor doesn't tell him because he doesn't want to lose him. So it's, there's a little bit of truth going both ways. Yeah. But I actually feel like it's one of the more unique solutions that we have, which is to get the G2s and G3s engaged earlier, do more mentoring and training early, find out whether it's a skill set that fits them, because you don't want to become an owner and then not be able to grow your book. So you've got to be able to help people make better decisions. You got to be able to develop people. You got to be able to, grow something. It's a unique process, but the sooner you allow them to get in there and find out they can succeed or fail, the better it is for you. And you don't have to give away real equity to find that out. You can give synthetic equity. There's a lot of things you can do to help people get started, find out whether this fits them, and then find out whether they can fit your organization, because these are big bites of big apples that you're asking people to take here going forward. And, it's one of the most important parts in my mind is the generation of G3s and G4s, and you're going to need more people, because I do believe the egocentric model is going to flatten, and you're going to end up with more smaller owners. And so you're going to have to work in a collaborative way, in a community, not an individual ego driving it, but a group of people driving the bus. And therefore, you got to figure out how to get along, how to talk with each other, how to communicate, collaborate. And the sooner you start that process, the likelihood of success. And the longer you wait, the harder it is. I mean, it's almost becomes, I think that's why you have so many bigger teams end up, merging rather than selling. It's because they just didn't do their job of finding the time to actually, develop that G2 or develop those G3s. And I think they're out there, but people got to make some changes to get that done.
And then you have the conflict, if you will, with these company retirement plans and structured. And so talk about some of these plans. Morgan Stanley and UBS and Ameriprise and all these different firms have their structured programs. How do you address them, and what's your thoughts about them, and limitations, and as well as opportunity?
So I think it really starts, as a consultant anyway, it starts with the idea that you have to talk to that lead advisor and say, how have you gotten better at what you do? And if they start talking about it and they're all talking about being a better advisor, then they're not a better leader. If they start about their leadership, then you know that they are just holding on to their advisor stuff for revenue. And but you need to find out that conflict right from the very beginning. And then you ask, how does your team grown with the current relationship or wherever they're at? And you get the same thing. You get this very limited answer because people get very used to just doing what they've always done, and therefore staying where they've always stayed. And when the last question is what's your custodian doing to help you grow? And a lot of times that's where they start talking about, here's our cost and I don't know what I'm getting. And that begins the conversation about, well, what should you be doing? What would be the way that you're going to become a better leader? What's going to help you to become, your team to become better at what they do? And, it's just a lot of those kind of conversations. And we find out that a lot of times this is, platform driven, that they're in the wrong platform for where they're at and where they want to be. And, we start talking about what that platform might look like or what it should look like. And, it is harder and harder and harder because of the size of the organizations to actually see that it's not better off to be in that independent platform where you're in control of the cost and you're in control of the product, you're in control of the concepts you use. And when you can do the right things and you can execute, then the client wins, the team wins, and so on and so forth. So you get the 5 steps of that, and you start looking, and most of these guys will come to the right choice. They just are afraid of the idea that they may not be themselves as ready to do this as they thought. And, and it's for a lot of leaders, it's new, and new is different and it's difficult. And so that's where, as a consultant, you have to be really patient and allow them to kind of open the door slightly every day and get a little more light. And then finally you can open the door all the way and say, it's up to you. Do you want to go through the door? Or do you want to stay where you're at? And it's kind of a challenge anyway. And I think for most consultants, not to just run through the door and kind of push them through or pull them through. And that's a mistake. I think you have to help them to kind of see why this is a better idea, a better solution.
You've got a very hugely experienced with advisors and their practices, but also great leadership at the higher level at some of these big IBDs and big firms, right? So you have that real good understanding of our industry. And through the years, we've seen so many changes, and almost in this day and age, almost surprising the changes that we're seeing with IBDs and the independent market. So talk about that and changes that you're seeing and the challenges that advisors have underneath their current structures.
Well, I mean, I think this is kind of how I got to know you and Jenny. Is this if I was going to sell my house, I'm not the guy that's going to put a sign in my front yard and say, house for sale by owner. I totally get and understand that the environment changes almost constantly.
Mhm.
Rates change, bank rates change. This bank was doing this bank was doing that. Houses and who inspects and what does inspection really get you? All the details that end up costing people millions of dollars. That's the idea that most people buy more home than they ever need, and I think that's the same thing true when you're in this industry. Is that people leave and think that they can't do something, so they aggregate. They go someplace where somebody else is going to do the work for them, and at the end of the day, they end up paying hundreds of thousands of dollars for something within 2 years or 3 years they could have done on their own. And
Mm.
so end up finding somebody like yourself who understands the industry, but also understands what's the difference between what one independent firm is doing and another independent firm is doing, and what those offers really are, and that what seems like an $800,000 offer is really an $80,000 offer unless you ring the bell, or an $8 million offer is really not a $18 million offer unless you ring this bell, and it's so hard out there because it's such a highly competitive world, and every firm out there that I know changes probably once or twice in a calendar year with what they're doing and why they're doing it. And so for me, I try to stay in my lane. I know what I know and I know what I don't know. And so you pick the phone up and you call a Roger or a Jenny and you say, hey, I got a team that's thinking about leaving. Can you show them the platform? Can you show them what's out there? Give them an idea of what they're, what's influencing their perspective. And oftentimes it so gets into money that I think that clouds decisions. I think there's so many more pieces to the decision than what's the dollars that I'm going to get or what are the dollars that I'm not getting. And I'm comparing this firm to that firm strictly on dollars. And what I like the most is that I really enjoy the team I had in New Jersey a few years ago, basically used your firm to see 7 firms.
Mm.
And we took a long time, but at the end of the day, we ended up being independent, getting a custodial relationship that really worked, finding the right capital partner that didn't take over the firm in terms of decision making,
Mhm.
and it fit them. But it took a long time to find the
Yeah.
right house, to find the right place. And I think a lot of times people very limit themselves, find it very limiting by just saying, I like this, it fits, and I don't want to see what else is out there. And I feel like that's a little bit of a mistake. But I also find that seeing so many that I get lost in all the data and information that I
Mhm.
forgot why I was leaving. So that's why the combination of having a consultant like myself who says, here's the things we're looking for, here's what we're trying to avoid, here's what we're
Mhm.
trying to get. And at the end of the day, if I work directly with you and Jenny, I think we find the right home, because I'm on one side, you're on another side. I think it works when advisors are out there kind of doing this the right way. I think moving is not as nearly as tension driven as they make it when they're trying to do it all by themselves.
Though you're also have a great sense of their current platform and the inefficiencies or the challenges with their current platform. A lot of advisors are complacent, and you get that, Tom. Um, and you're able to, you know, but give them a good sense of, or be able to talk to you openly about the challenges that they have at their current firms. They
Yeah.
open up about all the issues and concerns and talk about that, if you will.
Well, I think people are there's always 2 or 3 reasons why they're running away from something or leaving something.
Hmm.
There's some things that are just annoying. It's my admin fee costs. It's my, the limitations on technology. It's the compliance. There's all types of reasons that impact different people for different reasons. And I think you always, as a coach, you're trying to find what are the 2 or 3 biggest reasons why they're not happy in their own house. And then what are the 2 or 3 things that if I could go to a new place, what would I want? What am I looking for? Sometimes they're the same, sometimes they're not. And so the idea is that you're going to learn the 3 reasons why they might want to move away from something, 3 things they'd like to go towards. In the end of the day, you need to find the 3 most important reasons they'll move and or they want to stay. I mean, you need to find those. And I probably have had as many people that I've talked to where I've said, you're not ready to leave. You shouldn't leave, and you need to stay because the things that you're looking for are not going to be as good as you think they are. And I'm not afraid to tell them to stay if I think that's the right thing, especially when you're really listening. But I call it the 3 threes, and it's like I'm constantly looking for the 3 of why they're leaving, what they would like to go towards, but inevitably, what are the 3 most important triggers? What are the 3 most important things that they have to find? And if you can't figure that out because you talk to them over and over again and they're constantly changing, then you know they're not ready. And if you can find it and you know the 3, and then it's easier to say, well, here's 3 of the 9 or 10 companies out there that you might want to look at, but here's the 3 that'll fit that the most. And that kind of helps them, but I'm not afraid to look at others, but I am not afraid to say, here's the 3 things that you're really looking for, and you're better off with A, B, or C.
So, Tom, you've spent your life advising teams very successfully, making them better organizations and better leaders. And so for those who don't have the luxury of hiring you, and again, I advise anybody who's listening to this, give you a call, right, to get your advice. But if you can offer them one piece of advice to improve their business, what would that be?
Well, I think successful teams are always moving forward. They're not looking backwards. I think successful teams need to understand, in my mind right now, for the next 5 to 7 years, teams have to be really thoughtful about being balanced in their growth. They cannot go all in on one side or the other side. I think it's a huge mistake today. Like, I'm going to leave and become a huge aggregator, just going to bring in people. And you're not prepared. You're not built for it. The structure's not right. And, the bad turn in the market and you're going to be upside down. But you need to have this balanced growth mentality. And that's first in my head. And then I think you need to find the right coaches. Too often, coaches or leaders of teams go out and just hire a coach because he's got a name coach. And you got to figure out what it is that you're trying to solve for and who's the right person to help you to do that. But the honesty of that is really critical. Being able to say to whoever I'm talking to, you're not good at that. If you're not hiring a coach that's not afraid or is afraid of saying you're not good at something, you probably hired the wrong guy. But the third thing for me is that you better understand that technology is going to drive success over the next 10 years. And you can't just keep adding tools to your current tech space and think that's the way to get where you're trying to go. I think you really need to make a commitment to the right technology that's going to bridge the gap between have and the have-nots. And I feel like there's 3 kinds of people out there right now, Roger, that are seeing this tsunami of a big, huge wave coming at them. And you got people that are just going under the water and saying, when the technology gets, I'll pop back up and I'll be where I'm at. Yes, you'll be 5 years behind everybody. And there's people that are swimming into the wave and not afraid of it. And I think, those people that are seeing technology for what it is, but starting to say, how can I have technology help me to be more productive and more profitable, then I give those people a lot of credit. And then you got that third group that's swimming like hell for the shore. and they want to sell and get out, so they just don't want to touch technology. And
Mhm.
the good and the bad of that is you swim like hell to shore, and you're leaving your G2s in a tough spot
Mm,
where they now got to buy a big book and they got to fix technology. And
mm.
so I think that, and then you got to find the right custodian. You got to find the custodian that fits you. And, bigger is not always better. And, but you need to find the firm that will actually align with what it is you're trying to drive and how you're trying to drive. And then the last thing is, I think you need to find a capital partner. I think it's going to take money to stay ahead. And,
Oh,
I think there's 5 things: be a growth firm, get coaching, get technology, really find the right custodian, but then find some type of growth partner or a capital partner that's going to help you grow. Because I think it's going to be a world where the next 7 years you got to invest in your firm, but I think you'll get great dividends in return if you do. So those would be and then I'd kiss them on the cheek. Yeah, so I'd tell them that these are the big things you need to do, and it's not one of them, it's not 2 of them. I think you got to do all 5 if you're going to be the leaders of the group in the next 5 to 7 years.
well, that's why, Tom, I'm not doing this podcast in person, so you can't kiss me on the cheek. With that said, Tom, excellent
Fair enough.
advice. Really appreciate the opportunity and taking the time to speak to our audience about what you do, and really appreciate it.
Well, Roger, I appreciate the conversation, and I also try to encourage people to say the right thing to do is don't sell your own home. Get a
Mm.
coach, get somebody out there that knows and understands the industry, and help you to make a better decision, because these are long-term decisions. This will impact you for the next 15 or 20 years. You're either going to give up a lot or you're not going to get as much. One way or the other. And it doesn't work as well if you don't. You got to spend some money and make the right choice and get the right decision in the right place. So thank you for the time today. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, Tom. Thanks so much. Okay, hold on.